To just about anyone, the vision of a South Pacific island represents a certain escape to a kind of paradise. And for surfers, this goes double, because some of the best waves in the world can be found on these islands. In archipelagos like the Society Islands, the Marquesas, the Tuamotus, Fiji, the list is almost endless. Well, we here at Surfer had a few of these visions ourselves and decided to go take a look. Our journey took us from the outer reefs of Tahiti all the way up to an executive surf camp on a tiny little island off Fiji. And what we learned along the way was that these visions, these fantasy destinations, really do exist. On this travel issue of Surfer Magazine, we're going straight to the heart of the South Pacific. First up, we'll check in on exotic French Polynesia and meet some of its finest surfers. On our Scripps Wave Report, we'll learn that sometimes there can be trouble in paradise. Then on our movie review, we've got a ticket to ride through Samoa, New Zealand, and more. On our surf report, we'll cross the date line and visit the mystical Fijian island of Tavarua. And of course, there's always our look at the lighter side from Corky's Corner, in paradise. Don't go away, our report from the Southern Hemisphere is coming up after this.
Certainly one of the most unique groups of surfers in the world are the Tahitians. Surfing has always been a part of their culture. It's something that you can trace back here to the earliest origins of the sport. Yet, despite today's modern equipment and cutting-edge performances, they still retain a strong spiritual link with the ocean. A deep respect and love for the sea that has been handed down through the ages like a treasured heirloom. For the Tahitians, surfing is much more than just a pastime. It's a creed, an ethic really, something that you can see in just about every wave they ride.
Arsène Adioye is the elder statesman of surfing from Tahiti, even though he's still only 32 years old. Although Arsène has inspired a whole generation of younger Tahitian surfers and is an internationally known amateur champion, Arsène has remained true to his Tahitian roots. Although he could easily have become a professional surfer as long as 10 years ago, Arsène chose not to trade paradise for the pro tour. So he stayed amateur and stayed home to soul surf Tahiti's incredible reef breaks.
I like surfing. I enjoy the surf, to be in the water and surf the waves. That's good. Usually we paddle out to the reef. Sometimes we use a canoe or speedboat. The best way we can find is on the reef. And it's kind of dangerous sometimes. The reef, if you get cut, it takes a long time to heal.
But Arsène is no stranger to competitive success. He's been the Tahitian champion 11 times. But his biggest buzz still comes from surfing the amazing Tahitian waves he grew up in. Arsène Adioye, Tahiti's Sultan of Soul. By contrast, 19-year-old Vatea David, nicknamed Poto, is a rookie pro and the only Tahitian surfer on the ASP World Tour. It's not been easy for surfers from remote places like Tahiti to get the kind of sponsorship they need to become pro surfers. So Poto is unique among the locals of South Pacific Islands. Poto first made an international mark in the 1986 World Amateur Titles held in England, a far cry from the tropical reefs he surfed so well. And life on the pro tour means he's had to adapt to a lot of very different wave conditions.
I grew up surfing right in front of my house. It's a left-hander, and I saw every day Arsène surfing when I was young. I like hollow waves and battling on the reef break.
In just 2 years on the Pro Tour, Bethea has quietly honed his small wave high-performance surfing and refined his contest strategies, taking him into the top 50 of the ASP ratings. But his tropical island paradise roots are still very evident in his reef break tube riding style.
Sometimes when it's flat over sea, I miss Tahiti because good waves, because a reef break, and the water is really clear and it's not crowded.
Bethea David, the professional surfer from Paradise. And now the Scripps Wave Report with Dr. Scott Jenkins.
If you're headed south this summer on safari, I mean way south to the South Pacific, you're not only going to encounter some strange new cultures on the land, but in the ocean as well. And ignorance of some of those marine cultures could be fatal. This week on the Scripps Wave Report, we're going to tell you about tropical hazards.
Surfing in the South Pacific can be an experience of a lifetime, but beneath the eternally warm water and glorious reef breaks loom many creatures of the deep, deadly creatures. From sea snakes, sea wasps, and even the reef itself, there's trouble in paradise, as we will learn from Scripps marine biologist Heidi Hahn.
There are many tropical hazards that a surfer would have to deal with. And I think the most dangerous animal would probably be the cubomedusae or the sea wasp. And that's located in the South Pacific. It's a type of jellyfish, and it gets about 4 inches square or cube-shaped, and it can kill you in about 10 minutes, maybe an hour or so.
Encounters with the amazing air-breathing sea snakes can also be fatal.
There are lots of kinds of sea snakes, and the one that the surfers would probably run into on the surface are called the yellow-bellied sea snake. And it's a problem in that it is very venomous. It's more venomous than the most lethal one on land. But it's not very aggressive. It's got fangs that are in a very small mouth. Unless you just stuck your finger down its throat, you're probably not going to get bitten. But if you did get bitten, you have a good chance that you may die.
The most prevalent danger in Shangri-La doesn't swim. Don't forget, it's the coral reef that produces those magical tubes.
And coral has a lot of stinging cells on it, just like the jellyfish. But more than just the stinging cells that hurt are the actual limestone that you have that's the coral's made of. And it'll abrade your skin, and parts of the limestone come off in the skin, and it'll keep working into the skin unless you are able to brush it away with soap and water, get all the bacteria out of there. And we also recommend putting hydrogen peroxide on it to dissolve any of the limestone, and then dusting it with a neosporin powder to keep it dry.
Poisonous stonefish and lionfish, sea snakes and sea wasps, along with the coral, not to mention the sharks, prove that there really can be trouble in paradise. Think about it next time you paddle out. I'm Dr. Scott Jenkins for the Scripps Wave Report.
Now let's go to the screen room with Surfer's editor-in-chief, Paul Holmes.
Ever since Bruce Brown's classic film The Endless Summer, surf movie makers have been obsessed with traveling to remote corners of the world in search of a perfect wave. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with this formula for a surf film, because it still works even today. Steve Soderbergh's most recent release, Ticket to Ride, is the latest surf movie struck from the Endless Summer mold, and its emphasis is firmly fixed on the adventure of traveling in search of surf.
The first stop with our Ticket to Ride is Hawaii. The North Shore has changed. It's hardly the country anymore, but its business of pleasure is still surfing. Some things don't change: the photographers, the surfers, and the major force of beach erosion. One thing will never change: North Shore waves pump, especially at this place, Sunset Beach.
While North Shore surfing makes up a significant portion of the hardcore action in this movie, Steve Soderbergh went the distance in his travels for perfect waves. It's no easy task capturing surfing in places like the Cook Islands and Samoa. Much of the surf occurs in the most inaccessible locations. But Soderbergh used the experience from 2 previously successful movies and took the necessary risks to bring back the goods, as you can see in these sequences from French Polynesia. While Soderbergh ran into some great surf in the South Pacific, not all of his travels were what you'd call smooth sailing.
One wave, one dive, one sunken boat, and I'm out $4,000 worth of camera gear and a new pair of thongs. Captain Cato here hung tough, never said a word or changed expression. By the time we were rescued, we had drifted 4 miles out to sea.
Soderbergh is equally realistic about the waves he found in some places.
There's no barrier reef in Samoa, so the waves don't break miles offshore. We didn't know if this was a good day or a bad day, but it was definitely our day. There wasn't another surfer for 100 miles.
Carried me out over the ocean, through tropic seas to distant shore.
But for the most part, Soderbergh's persistence pays off, and his travelers do indeed encounter some truly great surf. And with talent like Ronnie Burns, Max Medeiros, and Johnny Boy Gomes surfing for the camera, the action is always first class.
Just outside Auckland is a beach called Piha. These were the first overhead waves Max had in a month, and he was stoked.
But it's the amazing tropical reef tubes that are the high point of Ticket to Ride, hot enough to make most people want to call their travel agent straight away. Well, you'd have to be a pretty dedicated couch potato not to get itchy feet after seeing that film. And for my money, it's a good one to have around in the cassette library to help get you through those long winter nights. In the screen room, I'm Paul Holmes.
And now, some more off-the-wall comments from Corky's Corner.
If life wasn't tough enough here in Tavarua, I've got to lead everybody in surf calisthenics every day. This is my group right here. You guys all ready to do a few surf exercises? Yes. Okay. One of the most important exercises to do right off the bat is the soul arch. So we're going to do the soul arch. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, that's enough of those. Now we're going to do the all-important soul arch with nose tweak. It goes like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's pretty tough. Now to wrap it up, the most important maneuver of all is the barrel squat. So this is getting in the tube and stuff like that. It goes like this. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now I'm pretty tired and that's enough for right now. Wax my board and meet me back here in 15 minutes. Thanks a lot.
You know, for surfers to get great waves, it's always taken a certain kind of escape, an eccentric adventure to points unknown. Although the 60s and 70s were an exciting age of discovery, it is now in the 80s that surfers are actually reaping the rewards of all this exploration. Surfing camps are springing up all over the place, designed specifically for the traveling surfer. Well, easily the most famous of all these camps is here, on this tiny little island in Fiji that is redefining the meaning of a surfing paradise. It's a place called Tavarua. It was passing sailors that first discovered the magic of Tavarua's surf. Oddly enough, despite their South Pacific heritage, the local Fijians had never adopted the sport of surfing as the Tahitians and the Hawaiians had. But the fact is that this tiny atoll, 2 miles off the main island of Viti Levu, sits like a wave magnet, wide open to swells generated by Antarctic storms. And by the time they reach here, they find themselves breaking in warm, crystalline water and groomed by smooth, fragrant offshore winds. For a surfer, it just doesn't get any better than this. Tavarua Island is owned by the Matangali family of the Suvu tribe. Here, Big John, the elder of the island, and Druku, heir to a great chief, talk about the surf camp's beginnings.
This is a very special island, Tavarua Island. And what's this island they've been leasing to your family, the American?
Yeah.
They lease?
They like to make a surfing camp over here.
Yeah.
They came to our village.
Yeah.
My family, they sit down together and talk about those people. They need this our island.
Yeah.
Then we agree to give them to lease 66 years for their camp, for surfing camp.
The surf camp of Tavarua was first established in 1982, and visiting surfers shared the total island experience, not only by surfing fabulous waves, but by enjoying a Fijian brotherhood and learning from the locals what the tropical lifestyle is all about. Now, this exchange was not a one-way street, because now there are 2 generations of Fijians that share the beauty of surfing with their guests. 32-year-old Californian Scott Funk is one of the founders of this pioneering resort concept.
Surfing is a real big thing in my life. It always will be. But coming down here and surfing what I think are definitely some of the most perfect waves in the world, and surfing them alone, and just the entire context of being out of your country, starting something new, surfing off your own island, waking up, lifting your head up from the pillow and looking right out on the most perfect left, knowing there's not going to be anybody there, and it's all yours, is really something. But you know, after experiencing that, there's more to life than surfing. Believe it or not. Surfing will always be there, but people are the most important. And the Fijians have shown me so much about life, friendship, love, trust, all that stuff, that I think that's the highlight of this whole thing.
Built out of indigenous wood, lashed together with vines and rope, and roofed in thatch, the surf camp recreates the lifestyle reminiscent of the Swiss Family Robinson. It was not just a surf camp the founders had in mind. Their vision was to create an ecologically sound preserve that showed great respect for the natural environment. Fellow founders Dave Clark and his wife Jean explain.
Well, what we've tried to create here is paradise on Earth. The environment is definitely paradise. The surf is fantastic, the island setting, the prevailing offshores, no bugs. It's a very unique environment, and what we've tried to do is provide amenities in such a way that you can enjoy those while not getting too comfortable in a Western-style air-conditioned condo. We like to have you feel what it'd be like to be in a village setting, but at the same time comfortable as well as experiencing the environment.
It's kind of like being in a naturalistic approach. Also having good food to eat, that really makes a difference too. To be healthy and happy at the same time, but I think just being able to go out and talk to the Fijians or drink kava or kind of learn a little bit about what they think and how they live and everything, and not having such a segregation between the resort existence and, you know, that sort of village life. We really like that a lot, and we want to make sure that everyone else gets a chance to enjoy that.
Perhaps it's just a mystical coincidence, or maybe just the spiritual nature of surfing in paradise, but there is a strange tale to be told of how Tavarua came to be. It seems that long ago, two Fijian tribes were engaged in a bloody battle on a neighboring shore. Druku's great-grandfather, the chief of the Suvu, though mortally wounded, still managed to escape and swim 6 miles across the strait to crawl up on the beach of this tiny coral island and die in peace. The island has been in his family's possession ever since. Once here, it's not difficult to imagine that perhaps the spirit of this great chief still watches over this paradise, its local people, and the lucky visitors that find themselves mesmerized by the magic of Tavarua. Surfing in paradise has always represented the ultimate experience. The fact that it was born in the South Pacific makes surfing here feel like the way it was always meant to be. Next week, we're headed home for a look behind the scenes of our magazine. So until then, from all of us here at Surfer, I'm Matt George, and we'll see you in the water.